Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Olivia, you can call me Liv, I don't really care what you call me. Today, we are going to be discussing the autism spectrum and diagnostic labels. I'm breaking this video down into 5 different chapters. If you don't know, I am diagnosed autistic, was diagnosed when I am 17, I am now 21. I've still got a lot to learn, but hopefully this channel helps me and others and we can learn together. So the first thing that I want to discuss is the spectrum is not linear. It's a big myth that the spectrum is one-sided. Let me get a piece of paper let me show you actually. So if I draw the spectrum that most people believe it looks like, okay, so you've got spectrum there, and you've got two ends, right? That's what people believe. And at one end is less autistic, like this, and at the other end is more autistic, or mild to severe, like this. So if I say that this is less autistic, this is more autistic, and the spectrum is linear, this is a myth, and this is what most people believe is the spectrum, which makes many people believe that in the idea that we are all a little bit autistic, which is indeed false. We are not all a little bit autistic. This is where I want to move on to the new idea of the colour wheel spectrum. I find that this, and I'll put it somewhere, probably here, I don't know, somewhere so it's bigger for you, but basically it's a colour wheel. What it shows is that you are either a colour on the colour wheel, meaning you're autistic, or you're not, meaning you're autistic, not autistic. You cannot be more or less autistic because you're not more or less of a colour, and each person has their different autism profiles, I guess you could say. So if I were to do mine, for example, it would be, if I draw the circle, I draw a weird looking, not great at art, but here's my colour wheel, right? And if each section is a different trait of autism, so I'm going to go communication, sensory needs, struggles with change, emotional dysregulation, and so on, right? Each of these would be different. So, for example, for communication, I struggle quite a lot. So that would be, it would be filled quite high, like that. For sensory needs, pick a different colour. For sensory needs, I don't think I have quite that many sensory needs, so it would be filled a bit smaller, like that. You see? And then struggles with change. If I do I struggle with change quite a lot, so that would be even higher than communication potentially. Emotional dysregulation, probably be somewhere in the middle. So do you see what I mean? Like this. Each person has their own different colour wheel. The spectrum isn't the same for anybody. And to say that we're all a little bit autistic is degrading and devaluing and not at all true. I also want to discuss the history of the diagnostic labels, because before I was diagnosed, the functioning labels were used a lot, as well as the term Asperger's. So when you were originally diagnosed, you were given a functioning label, either high functioning or low functioning. And these are now deemed as inappropriate and derogatory because people who were diagnosed as low functioning their strengths weren't seen, and only people ever saw that they were low functioning, right? And even people who were diagnosed as high functioning, their things that they struggle with weren't appreciated enough because you're high functioning. How can you can deal with this, right? Do you get what I mean? So People who were deemed as low functioning were written off completely, and people who were seen as high functioning were not given the support that they need. High functioning people were just really good at masking as well. And the term Asperger's syndrome, Asperger's was created by Hans Asperger, the Nazi, who experimented on autistic children, mainly boys. Those deemed worthy of living were people who had Asperger's, and those who were unworthy of living were autistic, which is why we no longer like to use Asperger's and why in the DSM-5 it is no longer a diagnosing label. Now it's all just autism spectrum condition, and we each have our own needs profile and assessment, which I really like. However, in America and I think Australia and many other countries, and I think it's just started to be implemented in the UK as well, levels are introduced. Levels 1, 2, and 3. I wasn't diagnosed with a level. I was just diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at the time. Level 1 is low support needs, level 2 is medium support needs, and level 3 is high support needs. There's been a bit of discourse around this if they just replace the functioning labels, but listening to high support needs and level 3 friends in the community, which is extremely important, it's seen as incredibly helpful. So the overall view in the autistic community is that levels are a good thing. I don't really have an opinion. I think that my opinion should be the voice of the majority, and I'm not level 3 or high support needs, so I need to listen to them. That's my view, anywho. I think that's really important. So now instead of saying severely autistic, which is incorrect because it's just the way our brains are wired, you can't be more or less autistic. Do you get what I mean? You either are autistic or you're not. There's no severe to mild. So instead you would say high support needs because they've got high support needs, or you would say low support needs because they've got low support needs. I wasn't diagnosed with a level or support needs, but I would consider myself medium support needs. But that's just me. I haven't had a doctor or psychiatrist or anything look at me that way. It's really important when understanding the autism spectrum that everyone is different. Even if you've got two people who are diagnosed level 3 high support needs autistic, that they are two completely separate people and they are not the same. Their needs will differ completely from one another. The same with low support needs. Everyone is different, right? Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses and needs and interests, just the same as neurotypical people. So it's really important that autistic people and non-autistic people alike treat everyone in the autistic community as individuals. Just because someone has the same diagnosis as you or as someone you know doesn't mean they are the same. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I know there's a bit of discussion around having different diagnosing labels for different levels of autism. I know that's been spoken about and it's currently being spoken about by mostly parents of autistic people, not autistic people themselves. But I don't. As an autistic person voicing my own opinion, I obviously don't speak for anyone other than myself. But I don't think that's a good idea. I think if we have separate diagnosing labels, diagnosing names for autism, that just kind of brings us back to the functioning labels. Oh, but you're high functioning, so you don't actually need any help. You're high functioning, so your autism doesn't affect you. You're low functioning, so there's nothing you can do. Kind of get what I mean? And I feel like it almost invalidates the autistic experience because everyone is unique, everyone is different, and throughout someone's lifetime, things can happen, things can change, and people's needs can change as well. My sister, for example, her support needs have changed as she's grown up and as her situations have changed. If we diagnose someone with this is who you are, this is the level of need that you this is the level of support that you need, then it could potentially be harder to get support and help for that person. Now, I'd love to hear anyone else's opinions, and I'd love to be educated if any of my opinions are wrong, because I'm just voicing my own opinion on this matter and what I've heard. So if you have an opinion, absolutely share it with me, because I would love to learn and grow. And even if that disagrees with what I've just said, I completely understand that I can be wrong, and I just want to do what's best by the autism community. Well, if you stayed this long, congratulations, because I do waffle quite a lot. Maybe if you've got this far, comment a flower emoji. Flowers are cool. Don't forget, you are loved by me. And treat everyone, every single one, with kindness. You never know what's going on in their lives.